Good day, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today's video, I wanted to just talk a little bit about activated carbon in your filters. And some of you may know, or some of you may not know, but I'm going to explain it as like you're going and buying a new tank and you're not sure exactly what you're doing and stuff. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how and what the activated carbon is. It's one of your medias that we use to remove dissolved chemicals in your water. So we add that, and that helps remove like heavy metals and chemicals, chlorines, things that have dissolved to a liquid matter within the water. So we stick that in there, and it helps, and it clears the tank up. It takes the smell away, and everything's looking great. But then you realize, a few weeks goes by, and all of a sudden the tank's doing the same thing again. Well, the cause for that is actually the activated carbon. Because what carbon does over time in the tank is that it's absorbing all of the chemicals and stuff, right? And it's drawing it into it. But it can only hold so much of those chemicals within itself. So it will absorb, and then all of a sudden when it's full, it goes boosh, and it lets everything back out into the tank. And that's usually what happens to new people when they get the tank, because they get their tank and they have all the filter media and all this stuff, their little setup thing that they give you with the whole little setup and the filters, and you're excited you get all your different medias in the filter, which is good when you're first setting up your tank. Because when you're first setting up your tank and you're first adding the water to your tank and you're first adding all your decorations and all your plants, those could have different residues on them and different stuff that's been on it through the manufacturing process of the ornaments and whatnot and everything else. So adding the activated carbon when you're first setting up the tank is a great idea. Once you have that tank up and running and it's starting to cycle, remove the carbon. Remove it. You only need to add carbon to your tanks if you notice, okay, it's starting to get a little ornery. You should be doing a little more water changes or upping your biological filtration. If that's the case, and that would help a lot more than the activated carbon, because what happens a lot of the time is that we put it into our filters and it's doing what we want it to do, it's doing what it's there to do, and we forget about it. And we forget about it, and it's in there, and everything's great, and then all of a sudden we start noticing the tank's going funny again, or the fish are getting sick or not doing as well. Most likely the culprit is your activated carbon, because you've left it in the tank too long. It's absorbed all that chemical, and as soon as it gets full, it's like a balloon, and it just shoots it all back out into your water. So if you're using the carbon, my suggestion to you is use it, have it in there for your 2-3 weeks, remove it. If you want to add new stuff. When you're reading the instructions, I think it's been quite a while since I've actually bought carbon and stuff, but I'm pretty sure on the instructions and stuff, they tell you to remove it often, and those are the reasons why. They don't really explain the reasons why you should be removing it often. They just say remove it often, and most people, it gets expensive buying that stuff from the fish store all the time. So we're all like, why do we got to keep doing this, right? Why can't I just leave it in there a little longer? Well, that's why you can't leave it in there a little longer, is because it releases everything it takes out, it releases back into the tank. So that's why you put the carbon in, it sucks everything in, and then you remove the carbon, and that's how you're actually removing those chemicals from the water yourself, right? It's not the carbon removing it, it's absorbing it. You'll have to remove it from the tank. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully I explained that pretty good. As you can see, like my tanks behind here and my other big ones, all my tanks, I don't have carbon in any of my tanks. Once that tank is set up and cycled and running the way you are, if you notice that there's things that you're a little off on, my first suggestion is get a bigger area or try to have a bigger space for your biological filtration. Your biological filtration is, I'd say, the most important thing that you need to focus on with your fish tanks, because that biological filtration is the actual organisms that you need to keep alive in your tank that eat all the released gases and all the poop and the pee and stuff that dissolves in the water from the fish, you know, which cause the ammonia, which cause the nitrate or nitrites that turn into nitrates. And then you can, if you can set up your filter to you know, plants and stuff, those plants, that's what they eat. They eat your nitrates. So you can really have set up a tank that you can't say there's no maintenance, because there's always maintenance on a fish tank. But it lessens the maintenance. It makes it easier. You're not chasing your water. Your water's not going up and down, cloudy, stinky, green, you know, all these different things. It stays stable. And that's the key, is about a cycled tank, is to keep the tank stable. You don't want huge fluctuations and stuff like that going in and out. Say if the tank drops in the pH and you throw in a 50% water change at a higher pH, you're gonna really shock those fish, the plants, the organisms that are in that water. So just a few things I wanted to talk about, just so you know, some of you might not really understand why we put activated carbon in and what we're using it for. The reason, you know, just saying, like when you buy, say you buy medication and you go and the first thing they say is to remove the activated carbon from your filter. That's because that activated carbon's job is to remove dissolved chemicals in the water, right? But the thing is that frustrates me the most is they don't explain why the activated carbon is actually there in the first place. And the reason why you're probably buying your medication is because your fish got sick because of the release of your activated carbon that you know, misthought about replacing or removing, or understanding what it was actually there for, to remove the chemicals, and that it will, over time, it'll suck, and then release back in. So that's most of the cause. When you get new fish keepers, they go and set up these tanks and they run it for a while. It's doing great, right? It's all starting to cycle. They're starting to get their fish. Everything's starting to build. And then all of a sudden, 2, 3, you know, weeks in, a month or so, their fish start getting sick and dying, and they don't know what's going on, and they run to the pet store. What's happened is they forgot to remove replace the carbon. When they first set up a tank, put the carbon in, run that for 2, 3, you know, a week or two, let it help absorb that, then pull that carbon out. Let your tank cycle with the organisms, and your tank will be a lot more stable, even in a smaller tank, right? The best thing I would suggest for those smaller tanks, most of you have a hang on the back sponge filter, or even the canister filters. Get a big chunk of sponge and add that to the end of it. Have that as like on your intake, inside your tank. Add a huge big sponge, as big as you can stand, because it can be a little gaudy and, you know, not quite the way you want to look. But if you can get it behind a rock or a stick or something and have a big sponge, like a pre-filter, that big sponge will do you a world of help compared to any chemicals or anything else you could buy, right? So I just wanted to get on here and give you guys a little insight of, you know, my insight on it, I will say. My insight on carbon, activated carbon. Yeah, it works for what we need it to do, but if you're not removing it, you are you're on the edge of catastrophic stuff happening right away. So, you know, make sure you're on top of when you put your carbon in and when you're going to remove it, because if you leave it too long, it just releases everything it collected. So you actually have to remove the carbon to remove the chemicals from the water. The carbon is only there to absorb. Okay? Hopefully that's not too much of a rant real quick for you guys, but I thought it was important to share with whoever I could share with it. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. We will talk to you soon. Bye now.